Have you ever started the new year with a fresh set of goals in mind and you're excited for a change and what's to come? But then a few months, weeks, or even days down the road, you realize, I haven't thought about this goal at all, and I'm nowhere near achieving what I thought I was going to achieve. Too many of us find ourselves in this exact same place because there is no purpose behind our goals. On this episode, we're going to take a look at what it means to set purpose driven goals and how that makes the entire difference in what you achieve in your life. This week on the To Be Men podcast. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the To Be Men podcast, where we come together as men to challenge one another, to hold each other accountable, and to help each other become better. Better husbands, better brothers, better fathers, better men. If it's your first time with us, thank you so much for joining us. I'm glad that you're here, and I hope that the content makes a difference in your life. I hope that it impacts you and that it helps you become better, and also hopefully that you would share with the other men in your circle of influence. Hey, listen, as we're starting off the year and we're getting, we're halfway through January already, which is crazy to believe. But chances are most of you are either A, crushing it in your goals, or B, you already gave up. You already set the goals at the beginning of 2025 and we're 20 days in and you're like, you know what? Next year, maybe next year. And look, that happens too often to too many of us because we set random goals. We set goals that really have nothing to do with our life, with our priorities, with our purpose. And when there's that big of a disconnect, that's what leads to failure, right? That's what leads to not accomplishing our goals, not fulfilling our dreams, and living lives almost of mediocrity, if I want to say that, right? Living lives that just don't have any direction. But if you're watching this, chances are you're not living that life. You're saying, you know what? I'm here to thrive. I'm here to live life on purpose. And so I'm glad that we're doing this together. As you guys know, here at To Be Men, we really believe that there are 5 facets and 5 roles that we as men live by and fulfill in our day-to-day lives, right? We believe that we're called to pastor, we're called to protect, we're called to provide, we're called to persevere, and lastly, we're called to live a life on and for a purpose. And so as we talk about all of these things, right, we define what it means to be a man. We define what it means to be a righteous man, a godly man, but also we set ourselves up for success because we can say, these are my roles, these are my facets, these are the things that I have to do and accomplish. Everything else is a distraction and I can cut it away, right? If it's not helping me pastor my family better or myself better, I'm not doing it. If it's not helping me become a better protector or provider or persevere through the storm, then why am I doing it? And so throughout the year, we'll spend more time talking on each of those things. But right now, as we start 2025, we're talking about what it means to live a life on purpose. Last episode, we talked about how we can find our purpose and how we can live a life on purpose and for a purpose. We talked about how purpose is God-given, not self-defined. We talked about how purpose aligns with your gifts and with your passions. And lastly, how purpose requires action, not perfection. If you haven't checked out that episode, I want to highly encourage you to go check that out and then come back to this episode. As you heard in the intro, in this episode, we're talking about what it means to set purpose-driven goals, right? Again, too many of us have set random goals, whether lose weight, make more money, XYZ, whatever the case may be, and we end up failing at those because they're not purpose-driven. They're not tied to our why. And so on this episode, I want to take some time at looking, how can we set goals that are tied into our purpose, goals that relate to our priorities, and goals that truly make a difference in our lives. I love the quote from Simon Sinek in his book, Start With Why. He says, working hard for something we don't care about is called stress. Working hard for something we do care about is called passion. Too many of us are working towards things we really don't care about, that really don't make a difference in our lives. And so we're stressed, we feel unfulfilled, and we never accomplish the things we set out for ourselves. But when we work hard for the things that we love, that fuel us, that we're passionate about, that are tied to our purpose, that is when true growth happens. And that is when we can make a difference, not only in ourselves, but in our communities, which really is the whole purpose of what we're doing here at To Be Men, right? Yeah, it's great to grow and become better for my own sake. Of course, I want to make more money. Of course, I want to be a better person. Of course, I want to do all these things to better myself. But really, I'm doing these things to be better for my community, whether that's my family, my children, my wife, my church, wherever I'm involved, I want to be better for them because I want to, again, protect them, provide for them, pastor them, persevere for them, and have purpose for others. We talked about that on the last episode, right? That purpose isn't really tied to yourself as much as it is tied to serving others. You've probably heard this before. I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. The true call of a man is how he serves others. Our strength, our fortitude, everything that we do is built around how we can serve and protect those that can't do it for themselves. And so again, we'll talk a lot more about those different facets of being a man. But today I really want to focus on purpose. I want to focus again on setting goals that are tied to our purpose, that are connected to our priorities, and that are truly fueling our passions. So what does that mean, right? What does it mean to set purpose-driven goals? Well, for me, right, part of my purpose is helping others grow, is helping others become better, is serving my community. And so that's this, right? That's getting this podcast episode, that's spending time reading leadership books, that's spending time in my community and serving others. For yours, once you have a definitive purpose, once you have found what God has called you to do, that's where you can set your goals around. That's up to you, right? Once you find your purpose, once you know, hey, this is what I was created for, this is what I'm called to do, then how do I go about creating goals that relate to that? Well, today I want to talk about 3 specific things that we can do as we go ahead and create these goals that really make a difference and that will make sure you are set up for success as you go and try to achieve your purpose. So number 1, you have to define your goals with specificity and clarity. You have to define your goals and be specific and be clear. I love the saying that vague goals lead to vague results. One more time, vague goals lead to vague results. If you don't know exactly what you're doing, if you don't know what success means, then you never know if you've achieved it, right? You'll never know if you succeeded. If you have no clear definition on what it means to succeed, you have to be specific with what you want to achieve, why it matters to you, and how it aligns to your purpose. You know, there's very many different ways that you can go about that you can track that. For me, I've talked about this 1,000 times, right? My full focus planner, this thing has helped me be a much more organized and track my goals better. But really, one of the key elements is that goal setting pages at the very beginning, where you write out your annual goals and then you break them off into goal details. I love this thing. I live by this thing. But for me, the way I set up my goals is through the SMART process. There's smarter, there's top, there's a few other, but for me, this is what's worked for years and I recommend it to you guys, but you have to find a great way to measure your goals and be specific with them. Again, I use SMART, which is this specific, right? I'm not saying make more money. I'm saying make $10,000 more this year, right? That's specific. I'm not saying I want to lose weight. It's saying I'm going to drop 25 pounds. That's specific. Measurable, right? Again, it goes back to being specific and measuring what you're doing, right? Again, make more money. That's not specific or measurable. Now say, okay, make $10,000 more by the end of the year. That's measurable. That's specific. And also it has to be attainable, something that you can actually do, right? If I'm not going out and starting a side business and investing, I can't be like, I want to make $1 million this year. Sure, that's specific and measurable, but it's probably not attainable. I have to make it realistic and attainable to something that I can do. Next, you have to make it relevant, right? This is where it ties into your purpose. I'm not going to go out and create goals about plant 20 trees. That's great. That's a great goal. It has nothing to do with what I'm passionate about and what my purpose is. So why am I creating goals that don't connect? You have to make sure that they're relevant to your time of life and to your purpose. And lastly, they have to be time bound, right? I can't say I want to make $10,000 more at some point. No, it has to be time bound. So by the end of the year, the first quarter, whatever it is, you set the time, you set the measures, and then you track it. That's what it means to be specific and to define your goals, to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. If you use that, great. If not, again, find something that works for you that helps you define your goals with specificity and clarity. You're like, okay, well, how do I do that? Start small, right? Start small, right? One clear, measurable goal for this month, right? We're almost at the end of January, but whenever you are, say for this month, I'm gonna read a leadership book I'm going to start a morning routine, or I'm going to attend a class on something that I'm passionate about. Whatever the case is, set yourself up for success by starting with a small, specific, measurable goal for this month. So, number one, great way to connect your goals and your purposes to define your goals with specificity. Number two is you have to create a system of progress for your goals, right? Achieving your goals isn't just about arriving to your destination, it's about the habits and the systems that you build along the way that help you achieve that goal, right? If I say, hey, my goal is to lose 40 pounds by the end of the year, but then I don't change my diet, I don't work out, I don't track my activity, I sit every single day, all day, don't like, I'm never going to actually achieve the goal without the small steps that lead towards that. So you have to create a system of tracking your progress, of saying, okay, I am going to go and walk 15 minutes a day, or I'm going to go work out 3 times a week for 1 hour. Creating a system for your progress is how you achieve the goal. I love this quote by James Clear from Atomic Habits, where he says, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. This is why it's so important to create practical, repeatable systems that build momentum towards achieving your goal. Goals aren't a one-time thing, it's a habit, it's a lifestyle of doing the right thing every single day until you arrive at the destination. So what does that mean for you, right? That means you got to identify, 3 small repeatable actions that you can start doing to achieve your goal, right? If the short-term goal that we talked about for this month is I'm going to read 1 leadership book, okay, then 3 small steps for that is I'm going to find the leadership book, I'm going to track how many pages I need to read per day to read it by the end of the month, and then I'm going to set aside time to read those pages, right? It's all about each small incremental step that gets you to your destination. So number one, you got to define your goals and be clear and specific. Number two, you have to create a system for your progress. And number three, you have to evaluate and adjust as you go. We've all done it, right? I know I have, where I'm like, at the start of the year, I'm great, I'm in good health, I'm in high spirits. I'm like, I'm going to do this great thing this year. And I start doing the process, right? I start doing the small steps, but then there's family sickness, or I forgot to account for vacation, or time off, or money troubles, or whatever the case may be. Life happens, and next thing you know, this great goal kind of sat on the back burner for 6 months. And now when I think about it again, I'm like, it's too late to catch up, and I'm never going to achieve this goal. This is why you have to evaluate as you go and adjust as you go. Because again, life happens, and sometimes your goals, they need to shift. You need to regularly be looking at said goals and the progress that you're making, and then make adjustments to stay aligned with your purpose and your priorities. Here's a good example of this, right? Let's say my goal for the year is to do a 2-hour Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu session every single day. I mean, on the surface, that's pretty great, right? You're specific, it's measurable, it's something relevant. I want to, do a mixed martial art. I want to get healthy. This is a great chance to do that. I want to build community. It hits all the boxes. But let's say in this example that, 3 months, 4 months in, your pregnant wife gives birth, and now you've got a second child at home, and now she wants to stay home with the kids instead of going back to work. And so you've got to pick up a few more hours at work. And next thing you know, you're like, hey, if I'm adding 2 hours to my shift and then 2 hours a day of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I'm not seeing my kids, I'm barely home, my marriage is falling apart because I'm giving my attention somewhere else instead of at home. You've got to make those shifts. You have to be aware of where your life is and make adjustments as needed, right? So that's the importance of being able to evaluate and adjust as you go. I always tell people, I would at least once a quarter, check your goals once a quarter and say, okay, where am I? Is this still relevant to my life? Does this still tie to my purpose? Am I still passionate about this? And what do I need to do to get closer? Or say, you know what? 90 days ago, this was great. Now, I'm not there. My life has changed. My season has changed. My circumstances changed. And you need to adjust, and that's okay. The worst thing you want to do is spend a whole year's worth of time on this one thing only to achieve it and realize, I don't really care about this anymore. So adjust and evaluate as you go. Here's another great quote from The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. He says, you have to begin with the end in mind. You have to be consistent on your reflection on whether your actions are still aligned with your ultimate vision and make those necessary adjustments. When you begin with the end in mind, you say, this ties into my purpose, this ties in to my passions, then the small adjustments will help you get there sooner. So again, what does this mean for you? Well, whether it's a quarterly checkup, a monthly checkup, a weekly checkup, start checking on your goals. Start checking on your goals, start checking on your progress, and adjust as needed. And celebrate the wins. If you're like, hey, my goal for the year is to lose 20 pounds, and you're 3 months in and you're already down 10 pounds, you're halfway there and it's not even halfway through the year. That's awesome. Celebrate the wins, but also recalibrate when needed, right? On that same goal, I want to lose 20 pounds, but now I found out that I've got medical problems or whatever the case may be. Well, then I have to shift and make sure that that goal is still going to be healthy for my sake. So again, how do we connect our goals to our purpose? Number one, you have to define your goals clearly and specifically. Number two, you have to create a system for your progress. And number three, you have to evaluate and adjust as you go. See, most of our goals are effective when they're specific, when they're measured, and lastly, when they're connected to God's plan for your life. When you're clear on that, when you understand what your purpose is, then your goals will follow suit and you will achieve the things that you set out to achieve if they matter to you, to your life, to your passion. I love what Proverbs 16:3 says. It says, commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plans. What a great reminder that success in our goals doesn't solely come from our effort, but from surrendering our plans to God. When we align our goals with His purpose, with His will, and we trust that He will guide us, well, that brings clarity, that brings directions, and that brings fruitfulness to our efforts. I don't know about you guys, but that's a powerful encouragement for me whenever I set my goals and whenever I track and see where I am in life. Guys, that's all I've got for y'all today. I hope this was beneficial. I hope it helped you. I hope it builds just something within you about, again, finding your purpose and setting goals that connect with that purpose. If you did, man, I would love it if you guys would subscribe, hit the like button, share with your friends. Let's get the word out and let's continue to grow and be better together today than we were yesterday. Love you guys. Have a great time. I'll see you next week.